recording. All right, welcome to the second episode of the Starchild podcast, where I am discussing my favorite movie soundtracks of all time. We left off last episode with V for Vendetta, and today we are beginning with one of my favorite James Bond movies, Goldfinger, made in 1963, starring Sean Connery. The next James Bond film is actually Daniel Craig's last, so I'm very curious to see where they're going to take the series after this next one. This fantastic song is sung by Shirley Bassey.
Goldfinger, he's the man with the Midas touch.
Probably the most well-known of the Bond themes.
Spider's touch. Such a cold finger beckons you to enter his web of sin.
It's just a great song.
But don't go in. Golden words he will pour in your ear, but his lies can't disguise what you feel. For a golden girl knows when he's kissed her, it's the kiss of death from Mr. Goldfinger. Pretty girl, beware of this heart of gold. This heart is cold. Golden words he will pour in your ear, but his lies can't disguise what you fear. For a golden girl knows when he's kissed her, it's the kiss of death.
I love this effect.
The Goldfinger. Pretty girl, beware of this heart of gold.
Very psychedelic 60s.
Heart is cold.
The film is very experimental. Probably my favorite decade for film would be the 60s. Especially foreign movies. Next, I have one of my favorite 80s movies, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, called Commando. And if you're into 80s action movies, this is the one for you. I love the name of the title of this movie, or this video too. It's called Arnold Schwarzenegger with Tree. And just the most badass 80s montage. And in the movie, he kills everybody. It also stars young Alyssa Milano, who she plays his daughter, who gets kidnapped, and he has to ultimately rescue her. And it's just super gory and amazing. I love the soundtrack too. The soundtrack is done by James Horner. James Horner did the soundtrack. Very 80s, tropical too. Has a tropical flavor to it. And this is the most 80s thing you'll ever see. But I love it. I wish they would make these kind of movies again. If I had the opportunity, I would remake Commando today. But you gotta do it right. It's a great 80s montage. Most badass movies: Predator, Commando, Terminator. So that's the beginning to the movie Commando. Which I recommend checking out. What do I got next? Alright, next I got a movie by Sofia Coppola, Francis Ford Coppola's daughter, the director of The Godfather. Her movie is called Lost in Translation, which earned Bill Murray his first Oscar nomination, and which launched Scarlett Johansson's career. So here we go. We have a song in the film Lost in Translation called Tomib by the artist Square Pusher. And it's just a nice ambient electro song with a view of downtown Tokyo, which the film takes place in. They actually shot the movie in under a month, which I always find impressive, especially movies on location in a place like downtown Tokyo with just all the chaos happening around you. And turned out to be a great film. This makes me just want to drive around downtown Tokyo at night. Just sounds very relaxing. You just let your mind wander. Bill Murray's performance is absolutely amazing. I love his slightly more serious roles. The cinematography is great. Artist Square Pusher, film Lost in Translation. If you haven't seen it, highly recommend it. Here's another song that is in the same movie by the artist The Jesus and Mary Chain. Their song Just Like Honey has kind of like a punk rock sound. I saw them live not too long ago, so they're still touring. They have this kind of 1980s Bob Dylan look to them. From the album Psycho Candy. This is the last song of Lost in Translation. This is the end credits song, end scene. This is a very great melancholy sound. Really fits well with the movie. Next, I have a video made by the Criterion Collection, which is one of my favorite companies who restores old videos to nearly 4K quality, and they just look absolutely fantastic. This is Michael Mann's first big feature film starring James Caan, who's also in The Godfather. And this is a video montage of the movie, and it features the artists that did the soundtrack. They're called Tangerine Dream. They're a great 80s kind of ambient electronic group. The film is about a jewelry heist. He actually breaks James Caan breaks every safe in the movie himself. And he does a great job.
Listen, we having dinner tonight.
Also stars Jim Belushi and Willie Nelson, so very interesting, unique cast. Cinematography is great. The soundtrack is great. Tangerine Dream has made a lot of movie soundtracks. They sound similar to, I would say, kind of John Carpenter, 1980s sound. Great reflection shots with wet streets and shiny cars. The whole movie has almost like a Matrix bluish green hue to it as well, which gives it a unique vibe. A lot of shots at nighttime. Just a badass bank robbery movie.
New cream here. What's wrong with it? It's cottage.
Definitely one of my favorite 80s films with a great score as well. Next I have a clip from a pretty recent movie. I know that Amazon is actually making a new series out of it, but the film is called Hanna. And it has a great soundtrack by one of my favorite electronic artists called the Chemical Brothers. They're a British DJ group. And this is just a random scene in the movie that I like. It has Cate Blanchett talking to Kenneth Branagh. The director of the film is Joe Wright. And here we go.
What do you want, Marissa?
Cate Blanchett plays a really bad antagonist. She's a evil CIA agent after Hanna, who's played by Saoirse Ronan, a Irish actress.
You need me. Little old me. I'm very flattered.
I need your talents, darling. I need you to do things my agency will not let me do.
The devil is in the details.
The director describes the film as kind of a dark fairy tale, which the score also fits that narrative.
It's all in the envelope. Let me worry about Eric.
Shall I kill her?
Just find her.
Marissa, did she turn out as you hoped?
Better.
That's a clip from Hanna. I'm curious to see the Amazon series, but my hopes aren't too high. The film is great, though. Film Hanna, if you haven't seen it, check it out. This is one of my favorite Wes Anderson movies called Rushmore. Stars Bill Murray and Jason Schwartzman. The soundtrack is just kind of a compilation of 1960s British rock bands like The Who, the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, the Kinks, which are featured in a lot of Wes Anderson movies. I love the scene particularly just because it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. It's just Bill Murray tossing a lot of golf balls into a pool and ends up doing cannonball into it. His character is great. He plays a wealthy steel industry salesman who's going through a divorce, and he's just half drunk pretty much the entire movie. So here's one of the scenes from Rushmore. It was co-written by Wes Anderson and Owen Wilson, actually, while they were in college together. And it was filmed at one of Wes Anderson's school, actually, in Texas.
as I can be. But I think all the time, is she true to me?
All those Budweiser shorts he's wearing.
'Cause there's nothing in this world to stop me worrying about that.
Bill Murray's never ashamed to wear a Speedo or small swim trunks.
I was wrong, she was just too timing.
I love all the Bill Murray stories that people have.
I found out I was wrong, she just kept on lying. Now she tries
This cannonballs into a dirty pool and fall.
'Cause there's nothing in this world to stop me worrying about that girl.
But yeah, probably my favorite Wes Anderson film of his. Just the most true, and I love Bill Murray's and Jason Schwartzman's relationship in the film. It's quite nice. Lastly, I have the end credits song for the film Dr. Strangelove by Stanley Kubrick, which I just thought would be a good ending song. This is a live performance by Vieira Lynn, who sings We'll Meet Again. Dr. Strangelove is a political satire directed by Stanley Kubrick, which is probably my favorite director. And I just love this song. So I thought it'd be a good ending song. So thank you so much for tuning in to episode 2 of the Starchild podcast. I'm going to be continuing the soundtrack series with part 3 next week. So please join me then. I'm also going to be working on a Twitch channel where I could play various video games and chat with you guys directly too. So I'm really excited for that to happen. And if you have any suggestions, feel free to contact me. I'm going to put all of my links in the description below. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day and a beautiful life, and I will catch you next week. And I'm out of here.